Guys, welcome to Fight Back. Now we have the pleasure to have Tom Deblass here, one of the best coaches, one of the best students of Hansel Gracie. I'm going to let you guys, I'm going to let this guy speak for himself. Competition, his life story, Jersey boy. Is that a Jersey boy? Am I?
Jersey boy, man,
Jersey
through and through.
boy to the T.
Yeah.
and, and, and we have a pleasure. Tom, honestly, man, this is not just an honor. It's a pleasure to have you here, especially because you are really from a handful of people there that was picked to represent jiu-jitsu. This initiative of Black Belt Magazine with the Red Cross and all this collaboration to support the first responders. It is a showcase for jiu-jitsu inside a very reputable magazine vehicle like Black
It's a
and letting people know the content, see the content, because there's a lot of submissions there. There's a lot of positions. I know people wants to know more about jiu-jitsu itself, but what I think the message here right now at this point, Tom, and we're going to be watching that part too. I'm not scraping out the technical part, but what I try to say that, man, I watch your posts, I follow you and all your social medias, and the connections that you have, with the philosophical part of the sport and life and jujitsu. It's something that I think is brilliant, and I really, really want to pick your brain in so many things in the situation that's happening here right now. There's so much uncertainty, there's so much fear out there, and how to deal with this, how you are doing with this. First of all, let's start from the beginning. Welcome, Tom DeBlas. Appreciate you guys very much to have you here.
Thank you, man. It's the when you ask, anybody knows jujitsu. If Liborio asks you to do something, you do it. So it's crazy, man. You were already legendary when I was first starting, and I've been doing this for like 2 decades now. So I was a white belt, and you were already, spoken of like. Well, you were like a unicorn, man. Like you and Hickson, people would talk about, and so for you to
Oh
have
my
anything
gosh.
kind to say about me is just, I'm truly honored, and it's pretty amazing. So I'm old school. If you ask, even though like you were not my professor, if you ask me to do something, I'm gonna do it, man. And that's just you asked, and here I am.
Tom, you're awesome, man. You're awesome. Let's start from the beginning, man. When you started?
I started training. I was 19 years old, and I started with a small school that was by me, and they were cool, but I wanted like
By you,
I
by you where?
it was the town next to me. It was a school called Tongue Dragon, and they're good people. But I knew Ricardo. I heard about Ricardo Almeida,
Mhm. Yep.
and one of his affiliates lived close to me, Kurt Pellegrino, and I started training with Kurt. And then Kurt brought me to Ricardo's, and I was always like a young, well, not, of course, young. I was always like a scrappy, tough kid. I was fearless, like I would compete with anyone, fight with anyone. I like to fight, and I was I got thrown in the ring with Ricardo when he was preparing for the King of Pancrase against Nathan Marquardt, and we sparred, and I was a white belt. And man, it was so bad. Like Ricardo, like he sparred mean, like he wasn't like a nice guy to spar with, and he whooped me bad. And at that time, I was like, man, I love this. Like I need to stay with this guy, and I got closer with Ricardo, and I just ended up being a full time student with Ricardo, and I went through the ranks, white belt to black belt through Ricardo. But I
Look
I
at
was
that.
close to Henzo throughout that time as well. I was like Henzo's main training partner when he was preparing for BJ Penn. I was one of his main training partners, and I would spar with him and train with him. Like the room was like me, Henzo, Hyan, Half Gracie, Ricardo Almeida, Dante Rivera. Like it was, man, like I was a white belt and a blue belt training with these guys. You know what I mean? So
Tom, it's hard to believe that you actually had that weight. How what was your weight at the time?
I was like 195. I was always like a decent size. I was like 100, but I didn't know anything. Like I didn't know jujitsu yet. I was a blue belt. I just knew how to be tough and like never to quit, never to give up, just keep standing up no matter how many times you get knocked down. And they took a liking to me, man, because I was like this crazy gringo, that was like fearless. And they liked that about me, and just that was my environment. I grew up with, like, they had a huge impact on me. Like, I would spend a lot of time with Renzo and Ricardo, like, off the mats. I've been to Japan with Renzo. Like, I've been, one of their main guys coming up through my entire life, my entire career. So there was no easy days back then. Like, you see how jiu-jitsu's progressed and how jiu-jitsu's for everybody now. Jiu-jitsu was not always for everybody, Jiu-jitsu is for the lions, man. Jiu-jitsu is for the people who could only the strong used to survive. To where now it's, let's make everybody survive. Let's find a way for everybody to progress and find their place on the mats.
But at the time, it wasn't like that at all. And when you used to train, where was that? It wasn't in Hensel's, club as it is right now. It was in, where was Ricardo? Where
He was
the
in
gym?
he was in Bordentown, so he was an hour and a half drive from my home. So I would pass like 5 schools on the way to him, and I would drive an hour and a half there, an hour and a half home, 5 days a week, because he was the best, And like, I remember one time I showed up on a Saturday, and I was supposed to be there at 8 a.m. I showed up at like 8:05 a.m. and he sent me home. And it's like, I don't think you could do the stuff nowadays that you used to do back then and get away with it, right? Because there's the internet, there's people who talk bad about you. Like, you have to worry about every single thing you do. It has to be strategically placed. Where back in the day, man, like, it just was what it was. Like, you couldn't cry to your teacher if you had tough days. You couldn't express on the computer if you had tough days. Like, if you had tough days, you just don't come back if you don't want to. That's it.
How do you see this nowadays from the back days? It was better there. Is better now. What do you think?
I think it's hard for a lot of old school guys, and I'll consider myself old school, to adjust with the times, right? Uh, I think it's good, but it's bad. Like, I love the fact that now jiu-jitsu is for everybody, and we can have schools with 500 students, from doctors to carpenters to men to women to people who don't want to compete to people who do want to compete. That's beautiful, right? That's an amazing thing. But I do think it's tricky. Like, when I was a white belt and blue belt, if I didn't like something that a black belt was doing, I didn't like go home and like make a status about it or talk bad about it. You know what I mean? Like, I just kept it to myself, and I knew my day would come. I had to earn my voice, though. I had to earn my place. I had to earn my way here where I am with you.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people nowadays expect things to be given to them, and not the belt, but on the, like, we respect everybody, but there's a certain mat respect that you gain through experience and toughness and beatings, and that takes time. And I think nowadays everybody's very everybody has a voice, and I think some people who have a voice maybe should just lower their voice just a little bit, you know. And it's tough for me to say this because we know Gordon is like like a teammate, like a brother to me, and we all know how Gordon is, how much he talks. But the one thing I'll say about him, I don't agree with how he speaks to everybody, but like, he backs up everything he says, right? So if you're gonna talk and if you're gonna be a loud mouth, like, you have to make sure you have the skills to back that up.
That's
To
true.
where a lot of people don't, where he does. So it makes it a little tricky. Like, I don't have those skills to talk as much as Gordon does and just beat 100% of the people in the world. But I know who I am personally, and like, off the mats, Gordon would never speak disrespectful to me because he knows better, right? Because I've earned his respect by him seeing who I really am, you know. And it's tricky. I think there's good and there's bad, like in all times, right? Just like we're seeing in the country today, like, there's good and there's bad. While we want to make everything better for people, while we do that, sometimes we sacrifice, I think, some of our core beliefs that we are supposed to never sway from. And it's just, I think it's just a very difficult time uh, across the board for jiu-jitsu and humanity in general, man. Like, this is really, really tough. This is a tough time.
When did you hear about that? When did you hear about the whole coronavirus crisis and everything else? What was your first thought?
So I mean, my first, like, I mean, this has nothing to do. I'm not saying you're not tough or you're tough, but I'm a pretty like reckless guy. I'm a reckless guy. I've done a lot of crazy things in my life. I've been in a lot of dangerous places in my life. I've been around people who definitely have a better chance of killing me than a virus has. You know, I've been around real people that will literally kill you, you know, and I've never been scared. Not because I'm tough, just because that's my mentality. So I wasn't scared at first. I didn't really think much of it. But then I got very concerned for our people who were, uh, had a compromised immune system and who were
Mm.
sick. And it worried me very much. And I was all for the quarantine in the beginning, but I think right now it's like we're just getting hit so hard financially to where, you're Brazilian, you understand what an economic disaster could strike upon the country. You know, a lot of these people have never been in a favela. A lot of these people have never walked down the street when there's starving people looking for their next meal. And I don't think some people understand how close the USA is to becoming that. So it's pick your poison. Do we allow our economy to get back up and running and go out and risk with the virus, but taking, strong precautions, washing our hands, keeping social distance, being smart about it? Or do we keep the economy shut for indefinitely? I don't think we could do that and survive. And I think the level of suicide, the level of murder, the level of robbery and theft soon is going to go through the roof. In my state alone, we have over we have over 1 million unemployed, and about half of those people haven't received their unemployment check yet. And it's crazy. We need money to eat. And me in this specific position, I'm actually flourishing financially. I'm doing okay because I'm doing my online stuff. My DVD sales are doing well. But I can't sit here and be happy because I see so many other people suffering, and people are losing their entire life's work. I was talking to Bruno Bastos the other day, and he's like, man, I moved here from Brazil when I was, like 17. I did everything right. I was poor. I didn't have any money. I built my business. I did everything right. And now it's getting taken from me. And I can't do nothing about it. And that's heartbreaking to me. And I think people who have never been in that position before, they don't understand that heartbreak. And I just feel for everybody, man. I feel for the people who are sick, the people who are getting sick. Uh, I find a lot of it's weird to me that we know that if you're out of shape and if you're overweight, your chances of,
That's right.
dying from COVID increase greatly, yet people are still not focusing on their diet. People are still not focusing on being fit. We're staying in quarantine. We're getting more out of shape. Uh, it's just, I'm really worried for the country, and it has nothing to do with my own money because I'm okay, right? We're going to be okay. We're one percenters in our field, but not everybody's going to be okay. And desperate times make people do crazy things, and there's a lot of crazy people out there. And I don't know if these people are ready for that, And
We still think that something really bad it's about to happen, and it's not going to be about the coronavirus itself. It is definitely to pick up the economy. I agree in many terms, and it goes through numbers, of course. In the end of the story, the government is going to do what is number wise is smart and and quantifiable, right? How many people are going to be dying of poverty and hunger, or how many people are going to be dying of coronavirus? They're going to have to make a decision. We can see that. And at one point, it will be there. Right now, we're at the point that okay, we're still hanging in there, but everybody, like you say, is suffering. Even your business that's doing well online, it's not going to
100%.
do well online because people don't have money to buy it. That's it.
Exactly.
It's definitely and a way to happen there. We hope for a solution, a therapy, a medicine right? A vaccine or something like this to come handy and fast that we can go back to normal. But that will be a new normal on that. Even with that, and we'll be affected. Jiu-jitsu especially will be
Yeah.
affected because of the close contact, you know. And I and then and what to say to a Bruno Bastos. That's important for us right now. Is what you say for a Bruno
Well,
Bastos.
not everybody may agree with me, but I told him that he should, make sure number one, his online classes are efficient and sharp. Every day, run multiple online classes a day. Number two, if he has students that want to train in small groups and they're healthy, he has to start providing them a service. People don't understand. We need to provide a service to get paid, right? Bruno's not getting unemployment. Bruno's not getting grants. People are very misinformed about the money that's apparently coming through to small business. A lot of people aren't getting that money. And if they're getting it, there's an interest rate on it. You're getting it to pay your employees. Well, what if you don't have any employees that you pay on the books? Then what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do? So Bruno's forced. What else could he do besides work? I'm with everybody who needs to work to make a living. I'm also understanding to the people who don't want to train right now and they want to quarantine and stay safe. I understand that. But I also understand the people who need to work because we need money to buy food, man. Like, what are we supposed to do? And like, for me personally, like, it's hard for me to live locked up and just waiting for the government to tell me what I could do. When I see them, they don't have a mask on. They're eating good dinners. They're getting their hair done every day. I have friends who are barbers who have no unemployment, no money, nothing. They're forced to cut hair in their living room. And that's considered a crime. I'm just very confused about what's going on. And I just really pray to God that this isn't being used as political warfare, as a way to politicize things and push for certain agendas that certain people have. And I kind of think it is. And like I said, I'm not disregarding the virus. I understand that it's there. I really do. But what are we supposed to do? There may never be a vaccine ever. So are we supposed to stay locked up forever, indefinitely? You know, I would rather die tomorrow fighting than die 3 years from now locked up in a room. You know, death is coming for us all. We're all going to die one day. It's going to happen. But how do we live, right? How are we going to live until that day?
So this is
So,
a good point, Tom. Sorry to interrupt you on this thing here, but I was having a conversation with the guys before you actually come in live, and man, we're really actually creating a thesis about how much this situation put in us into perspective and to think and realize that did I have done the right thing in our lives? Because life and death can happen. If you never thought
yeah,
about life and death, now is the point that okay, I can get a virus that can kill me tomorrow, and I got to go to the hospital by myself and say goodbyes or not saying goodbyes to my family because they can't.
yeah.
And but it's thinking, people are really thinking about life and death and the self analysis of do I regret anything? Did I do it right? And how do we go from here? Do you have that? Did you think of that?
No, because the only reason I don't want to die is for my kids. If it wasn't for my kids, I have no fear of death. I just need to teach my kids some very important lessons, and I haven't done it yet. They're not to that age yet. But once I have taught them, and once I feel I passed all the knowledge to them that I can, my time here, I don't need to be here anymore. I mean,
There's grandkids after that, Tom.
there is, but you know what? I I just have a lot of faith, and I believe that this life is just a test run. Not everybody likes me, not everybody agrees with me. I just was never a guy who worried too much about death. You know, it's gonna happen one day, and when it happens to me, I'll die with a smile. And of course, I don't wish death. I don't want to die. I want to see my grandkids and hopefully their kids, but nothing is promised, right? Like we never thought we would be here today. So like for me, I don't live with any regret. Uh, Everything I do, even if it seems like, man, did he just post that? Did he just do that? Like, I do it for a reason. even if I know it's going to be controversial, I think about everything I do. And everybody might not agree with it, but there's always a plan to the things that I do. And people who think that I do things emotionally, or they think I'm crazy, or they think I'm not compassionate, they really have to, if they saw behind closed doors the people that I've helped, the people that I've spoken to, the money that I've given, they would probably think differently. And if they saw the way I was able to build my own brand, my own name, my own income, they would understand there's a method behind everything I do. I've had some great men lead me, like Henzo, Ricardo, my own parents. I've learned tons of lessons from them. Uh, I've had a very successful guy in my life, Rossi. He's older. I listen to people who could teach me, and everybody who's been in my life to teach me has been very aware of street smarts, so to speak. They've been very, they were born in the fire, go to speak, So for me, I was taught from day one, you cannot fear death. Because if you have any fear of death, you're never going to truly live.
That's true. And that's true. I just don't know why I thought about this. You're doing this a comparison with competition. If you really fear loss, you should never compete.
Think about it. You didn't have to compete. I was there. I was actually competing in that ADCC in 2015. Like you didn't. The safe thing to do is not compete. The safe thing to do is just live off your legacy, live off your name. You had a huge name for just literally killing every legend in the gym, right? And you could have lived off that. But for you, you needed something more. But in taking that risk, going under the bright lights in Brazil, if it didn't go your way, or let's say you got caught in like a silly guillotine choke or something that could happen to anyone. I mean, if it did happen, everybody was saying, oh, Liborio is not what we said. Because of one day, they're going to judge you for the rest of your life because of one day. And if you feared that moment, you never would have done it. Yet you have done it. You took the risk. We have to be willing to fail greatly if we want to achieve greatly. And I think as far as being a competitor, you have to understand you can't do it for other people. You have to do it for yourself,
Oh, Tom, that example itself, that fight was so for me. That fight was the moment that I really enjoyed my health, my mental health, my physical health, or even spiritual health. There's nothing very few people know about this. First of all, when I got invited to compete, and it was Mario, which used to be a teammate, but at the same time, he was the head coach of Black Zillions, and I was American top team, and it was a natural thing, especially having people at American top team at the time that wanted to compete against each other. They had to compete against each other. I was training Tyrone Woodley and Robbie Lawler.
Yeah.
And Robbie Lawler. I was helping both. And one day, everybody, especially in MMA, at one point that they will face. And there's no way that you can tell somebody who gets into that business that you cannot compete with your teammate. This doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't make any sense.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. And for me, it was a much easier choice than when I was in Brazil. But I had done that. It wasn't to compete in ADCC. It wasn't because it was Mario. It was not. It was because I need to heal. I need that for myself. I need that 8 months of training. I need that time spending with my students that they are training with me now. Before me giving. Now we're taking and we're mixing. And there's one point there. It's pretty fun. And I had 6 guys, all from UFC fighters. They're all UFC fighters, and we're training, and we train for 1 hour. And at the time, I was 49 years old. I was about to turn 50 years old, and the oldest kid in the room was 23, and everybody in the same weight division, everything. It was amazing. Now I got my ass kicked. I got it there. Oh man, what a training! In that moment, the thing sinks in and said, man, you're 50 years old. training with your students and you're able to do this, what you're doing with so much love, what else? It is
100%,
not
man.
about winning. What it's not about losing. I was
No,
walking in, Tom, when I have my phones in it, and I will listen to the haka from my students in New Zealand. Those guys just made the haka for me and they
that's
sent it
amazing.
the day before. And I was listening to this, and it got in there. It's got into the, and I was, what? But the worst can happen here. Mario got me in 20-second submission hold. The point is, I do have a circle of people that will be there for me, doesn't matter what, man.
Of course.
That circle of people that I fight for, and that desire of being there, that really, that feeling of being there, that makes the whole difference for me. But that circle, man, that will be there winning or losing, fame or humiliation, they will be there for you. And when you
Absolutely, man.
and when you surround for the circle, man, you know why you're doing it. It's just fun.
It is. And it's easy to get comfortable if you're not doing it, right? Like when this first quarantine happened, like I found myself like, I'm not training to compete now, and I found myself like getting out of shape. And I looked in the mirror, I'm like, man, like who are you right now? Like get yourself together, start exercising like you deserve to, like your students deserve to have you. Like never no matter how much we accomplish, we can't get comfortable, we can't get complacent, because there's no such thing as staying the same. We're either moving forward or we're moving backwards. And we have to have something to work for, whatever that may be. And I do believe our physical health is directly correlated with our mental health, absolutely positively. Yeah, man, it was funny. Everything you say about your match, I could tell how much it meant to you when you won. It was a beautiful thing to watch, like it was really awesome. That inspired like so many people. That meme is still floating around today, like with you and Mario competing. I forget what it says, but like it's talking about like it doesn't matter how old you are, like you just got to do it, and that was pretty
And,
amazing.
and another thing too, Mario, man, I have such a high respect for Mario, man. It was not personal. It was not personal at all. I like him. I do like him. And I consider him as my best friend, and he wasn't. And, never was. He was a good guy. Yeah, but Murillo is my best friend. And
Yeah,
Murillo Bustamante is one of my best friends, and some other ones there that it's a completely different level of relationship with it. But it's not about disrespect. It's not about me. It doesn't
nah,
mean
man.
anything. And I think especially nowadays, I know you're old school, your mentality too, but this is really not there in the scene anymore as it was before.
Nah.
It is what it is.
Yeah. No, that is true. And here's the thing though, like combat to us like is natural, right? Like you grew up fighting and wrestling with your best friend. So like for me, like I started hitting the pads the other day. Like I would love nothing more than for Gordon Ryan to put on the boxing gloves with me and I will knock him out unconscious. That doesn't mean I hate him. It means this is just what we do. Like this is who we are, and there's no animosity behind it. It's just we're competitors at heart, and not everybody will understand this mentality. Uh, and for those who don't understand it, it's very hard. Like I posted something about Michael Jordan the other day. Uh, when his teammate didn't do good, when his teammate had a bad game, he would make the stewardess on the plane not give him his food. And people are outraged. Oh, that's abuse. No, no, no. You have to understand the mind of a champion, of somebody who's a one percenter, somebody who knows what it's like to train people to be the best in the world, or somebody who was the best in the world. The level of dedication and madness you have to have in your brain has to be so extreme that most people won't even comprehend it. But they can't comprehend it because they've never been there. And the same reason why they've never been there is because they're not willing to understand how crazy you must be to obtain the things you want to obtain. You have to be crazy. You have to be.
It's such a good point, man. You know who was that 1%er? 1%, 100%. Carson Gracie.
Yeah,
That guy was like that. Carson
the
Gracie
man,
was
huh?
like that.
I heard so
Carson
many
was the
good things
man.
about him. I heard a lot of great things
This
about him.
guy was guy. You're talking about being competitive and and his understanding of the human psyche. You know, it's the human mentality, the behavior. It was unprecedented. He was much more a mentor and he never manipulates. That's another thing. He makes you love you.
Yeah,
That was different. He makes you love you and respect you through for things that he have done it. He
yeah,
made many mistakes. Don't be fooled about that. He wasn't perfect at all. At all. He made tons of mistakes, tons. But he had such a love and compassion and interest for the people. It, really in disregard of how much they have it, but how much they have it in money and in properties. It really was about the soul. This guy could read your soul, and he could read your mind. And at one point, he knew it. He would never do that to me. What he had done it to Walid. Walid, he's a guy who does, who has to work with hate. That's how he functioned.
yeah,
So a slap for him works, and he knew that.
yep.
And at the same time, he was one. He was the same guy always. So he was the 1% that you're talking about. That he was fantastic, man. He inspired such a generation of people to do what he have done it. That we still try to find out, not the why, but we still try to find out the steps to be close to what he had done it. And it's
How?
just
Yeah,
impossible, you know.
I
And
love it.
yeah, he was a
It's
special.
funny. Some of the people that are listening here, they probably don't even, it's crazy. They probably don't even know much about who Carlson Gracie is, right? They don't know much about Ricardo Arona. They might not even know much about you. And it's so crazy to me because it's like, for me, it's like, man, jiu-jitsu has changed so much, right? It's so crazy how much it's changed. Like, can you imagine like walking into to your old gym as some of the kids walk into the gym nowadays? Can you imagine? Which I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but man, like,
But
geez,
we
like,
had that. Hold on for a second. Tom, we had that. We had that a lot, actually. Don't
eh,
forget
eh,
this. People are coming in, and to make you understand how it was. I know that Carl. I know the Hensel's there is. It is a. Yeah. It is. It is downstairs, right? It
yes,
is. Okay, all right. I don't know exactly how it is. I remember being there before, but it's really, I just went there in the first level. But I knew that you have to go downstairs. And Carson when I got there was 2 floors. He has actually 3 rooms. The 201 where he has a private place that he teach classes and everybody that he let to do it. If we go from there and ask him questions or go take the naps, and that's the place that he's private place, right? And there was a 301 and 302. So 302 is doesn't matter the level that you have it of the skills, doesn't matter the color of your belt. If you're recreational, you go to 302. If you're a white belt, but not a white belt, if you're a yellow belt competitor kid who think they can handle it there, if you're a blue belt, 15, 16 years old, you may be invited to 301. But if you're invited to 301, be ready. It doesn't matter, and there's no excuse.
this is what I'm
There's
saying.
no excuse. There's nothing. And do not ask to leave. Do not ask to stop because you're going to lose it. That's exactly what you're saying. You're going to lose it, your credibility or your respect. If you want to gain respect, you got to stay in there. Really
This is what I'm saying,
eat
man.
your bite of the sandwich. Yeah,
Exactly.
and it
That's what
happened.
I mean.
And
Like, if
that
people,
was it happened.
but now if you do some shit like that nowadays, though, like, I remember we had a competition class one day. I said, listen, this is not going to be an easy day. Today is that we have some competition classes that are just strictly technique. just drilling. And then there's some that we simulate. We simulate being under those bright lights in the fourth match, 10 minutes in.
Yep.
So it was a summer day outside. I closed the doors. I turned the heat up to 110 degrees, and we rolled and we went hard. And a few people were almost upset. I'm like, you're upset. How do you ever expect to go through the trial, the ADCC trials, and become a champion if this upsets you? How do you ever expect to be a world champion? Like, if you're a competitor, we're competing to win. Because I always say to people, like, it's hard to be a competitor who doesn't take themselves serious, because it's very dangerous, right? Like, if you want to compete in something and you don't want to truly train, well, maybe do chess or tennis or something. Like, you could get your bones broken in jiu-jitsu. So you have to train intensely if you want to compete. And I don't care what level you're at. I mean, there's guys in every level now that they're very serious. I find the top guys in every belt now are very, very good. But I find there's a huge gap between the top and the lower level echelon of that belt. And I feel old school, when you had your black belt, like, everybody was very proficient at the things they should be proficient in. You know, they had a tight guard. They had good hips. Everybody old school had amazing top pressure, right? The top pressure was just killer. To where nowadays it's like, you know, it's a little different here and there. And I'm not saying it's better or worse. I think the highest level is at a higher level. But yeah, those days of that 302 room that you were talking about, if we did that in the United States nowadays, it would be considered abuse. It would. People would say,
no,
this is not healthy.
The 301.
301.
The 301 was the pressure one. The 302 is the recreational.
301.
You got to go there, Tom. You got to go and visit one day. You got to go and visit one day. But that's what's incredible. I'm just, man, I really, listen, we started talking, 40 minutes passed by. I wanted to watch a match with you. We just really started talking. There's more things that I want to bring it to you. Like, for example, 1991 is one you have jiu-jitsu against lucha libre.
Yes.
Right? Just for you to understand that. And I just realized this short period of time. Telling the story. So what? At that time, everybody was training at night. All the black belts of high level of Carlson Gracie was getting there 7 o'clock at night, and you were training hard, you know, from 5 to 7 or 8 or something like this. Just for you to understand. So there was a lot of high level guys. They were doing this as a hobby, but they went a little bit above. Right? Guys, I can't even give you the names right now, but there's so many guys that are beating guys that you hear, like Braulio Castellardi, right? This guy is, he owns his insurance company, and this guy beat Jean-Jacques Machado. Just for you to understand how it was. And it was different. It was different times, right? Different times, but guys at that level, you know, Antonio Claudio Buchaú or Ricardo De La Riva. Well, De La Riva went to that way, but everybody was training at night. Everybody training at night. In 1991, Carlson was the general and the head coach of the jiu-jitsu team. So he started teaching Fabio Gurgel, Marcelo Bering. That was the first time there was this big unity of jiu-jitsu against the lucha libre guys. But look at the transformation. That changes a lot of things. Everybody stopped training. Not everybody. A lot of people start training at night to train at noon because the training was no gi. And that changed a lot the schedule of a lot of people and brought in only at noon people that really, really wanted to because they had jobs. People have jobs at that. I was waking up 5 o'clock in the morning, was training 7 o'clock in the De La Riva. It was eating my lunch inside the bathroom. So I work in a bank at the time. And I had a motorcycle, man, it took me 13 minutes every day to come from downtown to Copacabana to go train with those beasts. Right? And I go there and got beat up because that time it was really Valetudo and Carlson teaching. It was Carlson teaching, man. This is what made the difference that really actually inspired me to go in a pursuit of teaching people from Carlson Gracie and Brazilian top team and American top team. But this little subtle idea that Carlson's have said, guys, who wants to fight MMA or train with no gi, you're going to be training now at noon. Changes a lot of things. And I actually, after that, the Carlson Gracie guys that actually used to compete and win everything in the gi, just put the mind into the Vale Tudo.
Yeah.
And training with no gi.
Yeah.
So you see this little, there you go, the 301.
Oh, look at that.
There you go. I go there one day, Tom. You gotta go there one day. This is the 301. This is where everything happened. You see the stair? Do you see the stairs that was here, on my left side? Right? In this case, you right side. I have seen so many people crying over there at Tom Deblass. I remember one time that I got there and this thing was locked, and Paulo Filho wants to get in, and he was like 15 years old, or no, it was 14 years old, and Carlson didn't let him come in, and this kid was sitting down on that stairs crying with his father, wanted to get in to compete and train, and Carlson didn't allow him because he was a young kid.
Paulo Filho, man, you've seen it all, man. I heard he was a total monster to train with, huh?
Yeah, man, I was always the kindest guy. I never was the guy. Look, Arona, we were talking about Arona, right? Arona and Paulo Filho had such a great mindset for competition and fighting. Tom, you gotta meet this guy. You gotta meet this guy. This guy is a total beast.
Arona's one guy, like, he competed against my professor, Ricardo Almeida. But Arona's one guy I've always admired, man. His killer instinct was second to none.
That's it.
Like, he competed mean, he believed in everything he did. When he went for that shot, he went for that shot. And I think still nowadays he would do very, very, very well in ADCC. Very well.
One thing about Arona that people don't realize, is talking about his physical ability. The guy looks like an Adonis, and you probably is going to relate this to Gordon. This guy worked his ass.
Yes.
He worked his ass off. The difference in Arona and Paulo Filho, for example, Paulo is a tremendous talent and has a great mindset, and it worked a lot when he was younger. But at one point there, Paulo didn't work like Arona did.
No.
Arona was a beast at work, man. Arona really, really was a hard-working guy that for that shot, and I see this guy drilling 1,000 times, and I was his coach. And whatever people, that's another reason why that he did so well, not because of me, because he was easy to mentor. He's a very coachable guy.
Coachable guy.
To get into coachable guy, but you gotta gain his respect. He will not give it your respect unless you prove it that you know what you're talking about, or you go there.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough to hang in there with the guys. But at the same time, that's the guy who understanding the necessity of being mentored into a point.
Yeah. And I think he's probably the first guy, honestly, who brought tremendous physical work into it as well, besides just tactical jiu-jitsu. Like Arona understood, yes, you have to be strong. The stronger you are, if technique is equal, if two people are equal in technique, the stronger guy is going to win, right? So technique first, but strength second. But when everything's equal, strength will win. And his physicality, it was just admirable, man. It was crazy. People don't know Arona, man. They need to look him up because that guy was a monster,
And the landscape changes pretty fast, And there's another thing too, Tom. Like you were capable to verbalize, and better than that, you're capable to writing down your feelings and your thoughts. And like you said, you calculate all your information and things that you want to put out there to people, which inspire a lot of people. And I'm telling you this, agree with you or not agree with you, but you got to inspire the truth. You got to inspire the respect. You have to have it to put yourself out there in any way. Like what happened to me, and a random thought that I have right now. Gordon, for example, of course I don't agree with the many things that he goes and he does. It would never be me because I can never do this. I don't have this personality.
Yeah.
But there is an understanding of one thing. First of all, I'm Americanized. My family's American. My wife, my kids, they grow up here. I've been here for 27 years, and 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 I live the American life. Sometimes even speaking more English than speaking Portuguese. My English sucks, but I speak more English than Portuguese because I don't live in the community to say. But I absorb a lot of things that happen to make you understand the why of the trash talk, the why of just putting yourself there, the meaning behind the branding, the the stories of success that make America as it was America. You know, from the Wild West, from the cowboy times, from the from the better, stronger, and faster type of thing. I can't absorb it sometimes. A regular Brazilian guy can't or couldn't because he didn't have the same experience. And I may be talking too much. I'm not saying that
No,
I know more.
I
It's not
hear.
about that. But I can eat, and I'm in this game before it was MMA. I was
Yeah,
in a game of Vale Tudo translated to Noah's Bar to MMA, and I see the progression coming from fighting for jiu-jitsu, fighting for your country, fighting to make a position, fighting for money. I have seen it. And I've seen it, the companies directly, hey man, what makes money is it is the car crash effect. We have to create storylines. We've got to create um, it's Muhammad Ali's and Conor McGregor's and everybody who's there right now that's bringing the things. It does make sense. And whoever
yeah,
comes from this background, man, you got to understand. If you don't understand, you're not from this industry. You know,
yeah,
although could you do it? Can I do it? Man, some people looks terrible because they cannot they don't have it in it. They're mock-ups from people that really made it because not just they have the personality, but they have the intelligence
yeah.
and the humor to bring it in a way that it and to back it up, right? Like you say, to back it up.
I think
You know,
that's it, man. It's yeah, I certainly can't agree with everything he does when it comes to the way he speaks, right? But we can't deny that the kid's 24 and bought $1 million home already. Like he's found a way to succeed monetary wise in this world. Now, there's more to money, right?
there's more to it. Yeah,
We have to
of course.
inspire and we have to touch. Like, I made a post earlier today that I knew would drive people crazy, and I did it to see. And it sure enough, people lost their mind, and I knew that would happen. But then I posted something shortly after, kind of asking if they would have the same reaction if it wasn't their feelings, if it didn't go along with their own feelings. And some of the things I post, I know they're going to be risky. I know they're going to be controversial. I know people are going to dislike it, but at the same time, you're going to look at it and you're going to read it, and you got to ask yourself, if you really don't like it, is it because I strike a nerve? Does the shoe fit? Did I make you think about who you are? And are you also playing into my game of coming on my page and running your mouth and making my engagement go up? People got to
Of course.
understand, as long as you're talking about somebody, you're
But
keeping
there is
that
a
person.
character, right? There is a character. There is a character that you break or you don't break it that you played into the cards are dealt with. And I see this. I understand that. I could never be like that, Tom. I don't have the personality. I don't. I will be embarrassed. I will be it's just not me. I'm
Yeah,
this guy who's talking to you right now, and then I think it'll be like this, man, forever. But I'm proud of this.
you
That's
should be.
I think I try to be genuine in them things. I remember. I mean, man, I tell the story, man, about at the World Championships, and I was there, and we're ready to fight, and there's a kid that I like it from Baja Gracie. I don't know if it was Soccer or Draculino, and um, and I was cheering for this kid. He was Baja Gracie. And I was cheering for this kid because I like him. I always did. But I always was this guy. So Valid comes
Yeah,
to me and and he's trying to, why are you talking to this guy? This guy, why you so nice? And of course, I gain my respect from Validi and everybody else for my ability to kick ass. That's what it
yeah,
is. But I was a different one because I was kind. I was a
Yeah.
different one because I did not buy into. I didn't buy into even the luta libre with it. Man, I never judge people. I couldn't. I was raised differently. I thought differently, but I act differently too. So I'm not pretty different than what I was when at that time, and it was I got a great upbringing with parents, and that's made me act the way I act like that, and I'm proud of this. I know that I am. Although in circumstances you think like it's easier if you put a shut face and if you don't let people come in. You don't have to be tested all the time. But my ability of kicking ass, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Gave me my respect because the same guys that put that face, I could submit them.
That's
And
what I that's what I tell Gordon. I'm like, man, you're so good. You don't even need to talk. You can literally just beat everybody because like there's no need to even
but it's
run
not
your
him.
mouth.
But it's not. This has got to understand. Not him. You know, it may not him, but at the same time, I don't see Gordon disrespecting people after or what I have seen in crazy fights and things like, I don't know. And another thing too about Gordon, in my opinion, honestly, he carries my last name. This kid is jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And I'm always going to be cheering for jiu-jitsu. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's, controversy around or not. That's a point. That's for me. It's a valid point. It's a valid point, brother. Listen,
Absolutely.
we're done. We didn't watch anything. We just
Really
keep
got a
talking.
chance.
Tom, we gotta come back, man. We gotta come back and do it another
For sure.
live or something like this. We're 3 minutes away. I just wanted people to listen to you, to get to know you more. And of course, this is not probably at the black belt. This is an effort to bring in more jiu-jitsu guys and making people to have another vehicle, a credible vehicle, as Black Belt Magazine is, into this world of jiu-jitsu and what it represented to us. See that we're talking about here right now. We didn't really talk about positions. We're talking about how this affect our lives and upbringing and things that were, the future. And there's so much more into it. There's so many things that I read in your social media that I agree at, and I said, man, this kid is awesome, and I always wanted to have this conversation. I don't think it was enough. I think we have to have more of this. I think there's so much more into you that people should know it. We apologize if we were not entertaining. I think it was entertaining for us at least,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Absolutely.
Brother,
I appreciate you, man. Thank you. And everybody watching, I know you're looking for techniques, but understand this. Uh, they say 2% of people actually make it to the black belt, right? It's not your technique that is going to get you to the black belt. It's your mindset, your ability to have thick skin, your ability to overcome. There's always going to be something to pull us off the mats. Always. There's always going to be a tragedy to pull us off the mats, just like there is right now. And we just always have to find our way back on the mats. I've never met anyone who quit that was happy with their decision, So my academy is open to everybody. You guys are more than welcome to come visit me, man. I appreciate everybody who is ever on. And Master Liborio, true honor, man. I'm very humbled by your presence.
man, you're one of the guys that I wanted to know more, Tom. Let's let you know this. Let's leave it this way. I think you have so much to contribute to our community, man. It's so much more. It's priceless. There's a lot of people there that gets trophies and titles and things that they cannot they cannot verbalize, and they cannot contribute as much, as you do. So it's an honor. I truly appreciate it, man. I think you're a great example for all of us, man. All right.
Thank you, brother.
Appreciate
Thank
it,
you,
Tom.
Master.
Take care.
Have a great night. Thank you so
You
much.
too. Bye bye.
Bye bye.